Dun, dun, dun. We are live. Oh, it's gonna be a weird one tonight, guys.
Oh my god.
Oh, wait. And as always, like any kind of live stream I do, I'm getting my not me, but an ad playing in my ear, so that's annoying. All right, so that's fixed. So, hello, everyone. We've got, so far, it looks like we have Jen S. Friday Ketchup is here, and Tiffany M. So, hello, ladies. How y'all doing? I don't know why I just turned Southern there, but, you know, my mind is in Louisiana, the deep swamps of Louisiana. And Yolanda's here as well. Hello. And then with me, as always, are my two better thirds of the pie that makes up Classy Chicks, is the gorgeous JL from Modern Retro Gal. Want to say hi?
Hi.
You know, we've only been doing this how long? But I think this is why you love us, right? Hopefully.
I am not supposed to say anything. I sound like a Mark Hamill moment at the end of Star Wars. The Force Awakens.
Oh, God.
That doesn't work here.
No, not here. And the equally as stunning Heather from How to Be Fancy.
Hello.
Dawn is, Miss Stacy Palm is here. She says, hello, ladies from Texas. So hopefully I did not offend with what is not a Texas accent. I don't know what this is now.
Oh, but, wow. You've just moved on to Georgia, I think.
I don't know. And we got Yolanda out there, my Southern belles. So hopefully not offending anybody right now.
I think your Southern is better than mine for sure. And I've been here for my whole life.
Don't bless my heart. That's all I have to say. Dawn is here and Celiac Kitten. And Friday says everybody's looking really good tonight. So thank you. Because I don't think any one of us started the day out looking this well. So thanks, guys.
Not even remotely.
This was all done for you guys. From here up, yeah. Yolanda says she said she thinks it might have sounded a little Carolina. Tiffany wants me to get the vapors. Oh, mama, I got the vapors. But Vincent Price isn't in the movie, so I had to fake it. So and with that accent, I need to clutch pearls, get the vapors. Okay. Side note, but it is relevant. I do this to embarrass Colleen a lot now because I live out in the suburbs of the city now. So Colleen is still downtown, and when we go down there, sometimes I'll be like, I'll clutch my purse and I'll clutch my neck and be like, "Oh my God, I'm from the suburbs. Oh, it's so scary here in the city." They're just like, just stop. And I'm like, no, I can't. I'm so scared.
No. You're one of those suburbanites now, huh?
Yep. Which is why Heather hasn't invited me to the OKC.
That's right. You wouldn't make it a minute.
I like how you said that like it's down in the hood.
Well, you know.
All right. So I hope you guys were as excited about this month's not just movie, but the whole theme for this month. I got to be careful in the big smoke. And we got really, really excited after spending a lot of time actually talking about all the actresses and that. I think all three of us started like reading more up on a lot of these people because these women were amazing, and to make a name for themselves in a time in which people didn't want to give them a voice and to actually push forward and become the superstars that they were of their day. Now, sadly, a lot of them aren't as well known as I think we all found out, you guys in the comments as well, when you're suggesting movies, that a lot of the movies aren't really streamable. They're still out there, which is why when the voting came through and it was so close between Merle Oberon in Dark Waters and Carmen Jones. Oh my God, I'm drawing blanks now and everything. We decided to do Carmen next month. So we already have the movie for next month. We're super excited to just continue the celebration of female leads. So with that, tonight's research might be a little bit different because not only are we going to get a little bit into the movie itself, but a little bit into Merle's backstory, which I think everybody can agree is a little bit fascinating. And to fascinate us with all that kind of good information is none other than Heather. Take it away.
Woo-hoo. I feel like Vanna White with like a lot of random misinformation. Okay, so I thought, like Jen said, we're kind of talking about like both the film, which is Dark Waters, and then Merle Oberon. There's not a lot of information specifically about the film, like when you're trying to like, how we like to dig up dirt. There's not really a lot of that when it comes to this film itself, but there's a lot when it comes to the life of our leading lady tonight. So I'm going to run through maybe just a little bit about the film, and then we can probably all, I think, have some things maybe to talk about Lady Merle. Excuse me, I'm trying to breathe. It's like allergy season. It's going to be fun. So this film is a 1944 film. It was directed by, what's his name? Andre de Toth, is that his name?
Yeah, that guy.
Yeah, that guy. And it's kind of considered like a gothic film noir. I find that kind of interesting. I don't know. To me, it's more suspense-based than like your traditional noir, but we can talk about that maybe later. It's based on a novel, and it's not just like a single novel. I think it was in like the Evening Post. It was a series of stories that became a novel, and those were written by Francis and Marianne Cockrell. And then it was the screenplay was later written to be adapted into this movie. Basically, I don't know if all of you have seen the film, but it is about a lady who's a young lady who basically she was coming on a ship traveling, and the ship was torpedoed. This happened during World War II, I believe, kind of right within that time. The ship sunk, and she was one of, I think in the movie it says 4 survivors. Everything that I read said she was the lone survivor, but then in the movie she actually says there were only 4 of us who survived. So maybe that was before everybody else died. Anyhow, I was a little confused by that, but there's a lot of parts of this film that kind of confused me. So then after that, she's in the hospital for quite a long time, and then she realizes that she has this aunt and uncle who she's never met who are willing to take her in. They have moved to a plantation in Louisiana, hence the accent. And so she goes to live with them. And once she gets there, suspense unfolds. She sees kind of that things are not maybe as they seem, and that's where kind of the story takes you. The movie was pretty well received. I think a lot of people really enjoyed the movie, not particularly for the plot, but because of the leading lady herself. And also her co-star is Franchotone, who is really, I didn't realize how many films he had been in until I kind of went back and started looking, and he was in a ton of films, and especially
which one was 30s.
He? Franchotone, he was the doctor, Dr. Grover. And I was like, oh, I really like thought he was a great actor in this movie, and then I looked and realized, oh yeah, he was in a bunch of stuff. He was very well seasoned by this point. So because of them being the leading couple in the film, it did really well. And really, honestly, that is about the extent of the information. There's some mishaps and like little things like that that happen while filming. Like I think in one scene, they're driving up to the house and the close up is him driving her, and then when they shoot far away, it's like her driving him, which I think is really funny when things like that happen. But just other than that, there's really not a lot of like little details about the film itself. So we can move on into talking about Merle, who's way more exciting to talk about. I think we all kind of, as we were like researching, we all got really excited once we like started reading her story, because a lot of people, and most people, because her entire career was built on it, didn't realize that she was a woman of color. And so that was something that for the time was not uncommon at all. I think now it would be a little bit trickier for her to pull that off, because paparazzi and social media tend to do the trick. But she was pretty well able. Well, she was very successful at hiding the fact that she was born in, then they called it Bombay, now it's Mumbai. So she was half Indian, and that was her mother. Her mother was with a British, I think he was a mechanic. She was a nurse, and her father was British. Interestingly enough, he didn't stick around. And her mother was somewhere between 12 and 14 when Merle was born. So there's a backstory there that even later in her life, she wasn't willing to delve into any of that. And so there's a lot of mystery still surrounding a lot of her origins. Even after her death, her lawyers still don't release a lot of information about her childhood. So it's kind of tricky to find some things. Like when I was looking, I found it a little bit difficult to find that early life. But she was born, her name was not Merle, well, at least her first name, it's Estelle. So it was Estelle Merle O'Brien Thompson. So either when you look back, you'll either find that she claimed Welsh origins or Irish origins and said that she was born in Tasmania, because that to her seemed classier than saying that she was born in India. Like I said, her father left before she was born. And then as she grew up, she was really interested in the entertainment industry. She ended up moving to London and became a big socialite. And there she met, what were the brothers' names? Does anyone remember the brothers? What were the brothers? This one was her first husband. The Korba is
Shank?
their last name.
Was it Shank?
It was Alexander Korda. That's who yeah. So he kind of is the one, and it was, they were brothers who were in the film industry in the UK. And so she met them when she moved to London, and she was known by as Queenie. Queenie Thompson was what she went by. And he wanted to cast her in some roles. And so that's when they ended up changing her name to Merle. And so she took her second name. Let's see. She actually ended up marrying that man for a brief moment in time, and then she went on and became moved to Hollywood. There's a lot that happened in between all of that. She was. There's a lot there. There's a lot to unpack. There's actually Alexander Korda's son owns Simon and Schuster now, and he wrote in, I think, the late 80s. He tried to write this in the 70s, and again, her lawyers wouldn't let him. But in the 80s, he wrote a book called Queenie, and it's a fictionalized version of her life. And then that later became a miniseries. So I really want to look into that. Like I have all my tabs up. Like I need to buy this. I want to look at this, because I'm really interested to see what. Since a lot wasn't able to be talked about, what he had to say. Like I said, she hid her heritage. So she was always carrying the burden of being caught in her lie of being born in a completely different country. And at one point, it was kind of noted that someone had kind of traced some of her background and was trying to blackmail her, and Samuel Goldwyn paid them off to keep them off the case and to keep everything under the radar. And when she moved to London, and I think even later in Hollywood, her mom lived with her. And rather than telling anyone that this was her mother, her mother pretended that she was her maid. And so I think that's really such a heartbreaking thing to feel like you have to do, to cover up who your mom is, just to protect like this image that you feel like you have to have in order to be successful. Kind of an interesting thing is in the start of her career, she nearly didn't become an actress. In the, I think 1937, maybe something like that, she was in a car crash and it did some damage to her face. She had to have stitches, and she was actually in the middle of filming a film, and they had to like cancel some of the film because they were too far into it to hire another actress, a bunch of stuff like that. So she had some permanent scarring to her face, almost didn't become a starlet, and which would have been really unfortunate because she's in some really, really good classic films. Wuthering Heights is one of my favorites. So just kind of hoping for that one to be on our list.
That would have just been unfair.
I know.
All the other.
I know. But rumor has it that Merle and Marlene Dietrich had a feud. And I kind of really want this to be the next Bravo series because I think, Jen, you may have like more details on this, but I think it would be so good because a lot of the films, and I can't think of the name of the film that Merle thought was like perfect for her, because it featured an East Indian woman as a leading role, and Marlena like swooped in and took it away from her. And so there's a couple, I think there's a few more times that happened. What was the other?
Well, I know in one of the films, originally she signed on for it and the director got fired, and then they hired the guy that was Marlena Dietrich's like mentor. I hesitate using that word, but he like tried to shape her and control her. Svengali, that would be a good one.
That's it. Yeah.
And so when he came in, he got her fired and then brought in Marlena. And then when Marlena got the part, she went over to Merle's house with, for some reason I want to say it was like cupcakes or donuts or something. But it was food related, which when you read about Merle, it's like she was very fastidious about like what she ate. Mm-hmm. And it was kind of a passive aggressive bitch move, you know, to not only be like, oh, I'm so sorry I took your job, but here's some donuts. I don't know if it was donuts in my head. Yeah.
I love it. Yeah, like I really think that would be such a great, like, I don't know if there would be enough draw for the two of them, but it's Marlene Dietrich, so I feel like there would be at least, you know, name recognition there. Oh, I think it would be amazing, especially because it's a little bit earlier in like Hollywood time, so you could bring in like totally different characters. I don't know. We need to pitch that to Bravo. Kind of in the middle of her career, she had really sensitive skin. I can relate. And so she got a few reactions. One I think was to an antibiotic, and then the other one they called it like a cosmetic reaction. And it caused her skin to have pretty severe damage. And she was, like Jen said, she was a stickler for how she looked. She was a stickler for like the things she put in and on her body. I don't know if it was because she was sensitive. I don't know if she was just being really careful with like hiding things, whatever the case may be. She suffered a lot of damage to her skin. And I think he was her second husband, Lucien Ballard. And I had no idea when I was reading this. He was a photographer, and he actually invented, and if you're familiar with lights, you'll know this, he invented the Obi light. And what the Obi light does is it sits on the camera. So when you're filming, and it shoots straight forward, and so you don't get like shadows coming from either side, and it like smooths out the complexion. It's like a beauty light. And he named it Obi after her. So I thought that was really, isn't that cute?
I knew the name of it, but I didn't know that. Oh,
yeah, I know, because he wanted her to feel like confident on the screen, and so he invented a lighting that worked for her.
And apparently he was incredibly handsome too.
I saw a photo. He wasn't bad. I mean, it wasn't probably his most flattering angle, but he's normally behind the camera.
I'm gonna Google while you talk about it.
She was married, I think, is it 4 or 5 times? 5 times?
He was the second.
He was number 2. Then there was the
count. The count that became a lord, right?
Yeah. And
then
his story was so sad because she was supposed to be flying with him somewhere, and she ended up not going, and she went to the runway with him, and his plane blew up on the runway, and she watched him die. Isn't that horrifying?
That is horrible. And I know she tried to kill herself after that.
Yeah, she became pretty suicidal after that. And then the next one.
Oh, then it was the Lord. It was the Count, then the
Bruno.
Lord.
Yeah, because Bruno was the 4th, right?
And then, so there was 5, because then there was the guy she made her last movie with.
Yeah,
the young
Robert Walters?
I think so. Yeah, that sounds right. Because he was,
right.
39 and she was 65?
Oh, yeah. He was considerably younger than her.
I love Merle.
She's fantastic. Man. And I think she and Bruno had adopted 2 children, and the children that they adopted, I think, were from Italy, and they were orphaned after maybe an earthquake or some kind of natural disaster, and she wasn't able to have children, so that's who they adopted. And I saw a little video that had the daughter in it. Her son had passed away, but she was talking about her mom, and that was really really interesting because she also had no idea about her mom's heritage until after her death in 1979. So even her family, even her last husband, had no idea until later, after not after her death. The funny story, kind of the funniest climax of her whole story. Poor little thing. So her whole life she had kind of a heart condition, and she had kept that hidden from her family as well. Her daughter talked about how she would see her mom on oxygen every now and then, but didn't realize that it was actually a serious condition. And she did some amazing things. She, instead of buying traditional feminine things, she wanted to buy land. And so she was one of the first people to buy land in Acapulco. Why can't I talk? And she kind of established that as a resort option for people in the UK. So she built this really, I mean, it was spectacular looking 1960s mid-century estate. But that was where she always talked, when I was reading, she talked about how that was where she found her security was in land and not in other frivolous things. She wanted to have that security of land and investment. That was really pretty forward thinking for a woman of her age. But the funny, it's maybe not funny, but it is kind of funny. So her entire life, she's gone saying that she's from Tasmania. So I think, was it 1966, somewhere like that?
Yeah, that sounds about right.
It was a couple of years.
I love this story.
So the city, I don't remember the name of the city in Tasmania. What was it?
Oh, I don't know.
It has a name. I can't think of it. Anyway, they wanted to honor Merle with a theater because, she was a daughter of the city. And so she couldn't say, actually, I'm Indian and from Mumbai. So she just went along with it. She was like, all right, I'm an actress. I can do this. So she and her husband flew to Tasmania, accepted the key to the city, essentially, have a theater in her name. They dedicate this theater to her, and the city finds out about it, but to save face, they just don't say anything about it. They're like, yeah, that's fine, no big deal. And then she feigns, well, she doesn't feign, I feel like she probably really was sick, but that's when she tells her husband.
She gets the vapors.
What's up? She gets the vapors. Darling. And so she's like, we got to get out of here. And then they jet home to Malibu because she was afraid that it would come out that she wasn't really from Tasmania. And basically that's my favorite story ever. I love it. Her life was so funny and interesting.
What's funny too is that I guess there are still people in Tasmania that believe she is from Tasmania and that somehow she was traveling there. Or the mother was from Tasmania, gave birth to her, and then gave her to like passing Indian actors.
Yeah, like there's some like ship reference, like she was born in the waters of Tasmania. It's a very complicated, like
it's like a Merle Oberon conspiracy theory, and I am all in.
It really is. Anyway, I don't know if there's anything else you want to add. Those are just like the things I thought were like the best about her life.
That pretty much covered, I think, everything. Friday Catch Up says she thinks it was Hobart, Tasmania, which I think is.
That's right. I knew it was an H. Yeah.
Because I remember when they said it, I was like, Indiana.
Yeah.
JL, was there anything you wanted to add to?
Yeah, I mean, I just thought, like, when I had started kind of reading up on her life, the one thing that sort of stuck out was that she definitely took advantage of the fact that she favored her father's complexion, and she really kind of went with that. And so whenever especially when she went to London, she really never like corrected people, I guess you could say, in their assumption that she was basically white for all intents and purposes, because she kind of shied away from her actual heritage. And the reason why, part of the reason for her mom becoming her maid when she moved to LA, and what she had told everyone is that her mother stayed back in London, was that she was dating a man, I forget who it was, but she was completely in love with this guy and wanted to marry him. And he came back to her place one time and saw her mom and realized, because of her mom's complexion, that she was mixed race of someone much darker, and ended the relationship, and it broke her heart. And so I think that kind of solidified all of the secrecy with her and not wanting things to come out, because I think it was her first husband that brought her to Hollywood, kind of knew the situation going on and really helped to keep all of that.
Oh yeah, he definitely shaped that story.
Shaped that, and just hid, who she really was, because it would have costed her career. Most likely she wouldn't have gotten the movies that she did with ease, which was one of the reasons why we kind of went back and forth in the beginning with Merle, because we wanted to do women of color in the movies, because a lot of them had to really fight for leading roles. There were no leading roles in Hollywood for women of color. And so actresses like Merle and Rita Hayworth, and there's a few others where people look at them and just sort of assumed like they were white. They weren't of any
like distinct
background that would anything that would be a person of color. And so these actresses actually had a much easier time getting roles and getting leading roles than some of the other actresses who weren't able to hide their heritage, because they weren't necessarily of mixed race. So it was kind of like these two things going on with women of color in Hollywood at that time. It's these women who were mixed race and were able to hide that part of their heritage to get roles. And then there were the women who had no option but to embrace their heritage and fight for roles that weren't, just them being in the background or being servants or something like that in a movie, to actually have a respectful leading role in a real movie, and not some, something that really at that time kind of made fun of other cultures and races in Hollywood.
Two things. Tiffany wanted to brought up the didn't she think her mother was her sister kind of thing, and I don't know that we mentioned that.
Yes.
But growing up,
it is the Jack Nicholas scenario. She was raised by her grandmother because her mom was so young, and because she was somewhere between 12 and 14, and I think the mechanic was the mechanic for like the British Army or something. I felt like he was somehow connected that way.
He was in the army.
Yeah, that's why he took off, because that's what they did back then.
Yo.
They found a pretty girl and then they took off. Yeah, so that was
I forgot to mention that.
And number two, and one of the other reasons why I was excited that this movie got picked is one of the other people that I tried to find films on was actually Nina Mae McKinney, who was known as the Black Garbo. She was very well known in Europe for her beauty and her talent, got her start on Broadway, and actually became one of the first African-American stars on film. Now you're probably wondering to yourself, what? She was in this movie? Yeah, because she was relegated to the tiniest of roles, and that was the cook and the housekeeper. Shocking, right? Yeah, Laurella. Which, I mean, I was glad that there wasn't any of the really cringe-worthy acting choices from out of her or really Pearson. So that was, I'm getting into the movie. Okay. I'm going to stop because that's movie stuff. But yeah, so I was excited that we would actually get a glimpse of this woman, and you can't help but notice her in the film. Like when she's in a scene,
she's beautiful.
She's beautiful.
Holy moly.
Because I was literally like, oh my God, who? Oh, that's so and so. So I got very excited about that.
I'm glad you looked that up, because I'd meant to look up who she was, because I thought she looks so familiar, and that's who it is. Yay.
Let's see. Trinity Quest is here, and she says one of the reasons I love Angela Bassett. How do you think, if Friday Catch Up says, how do you think she'd go with celebrity today? I feel, you know what? Okay, let's talk about this for a second. How do we think that she would do in today's environment? I mean, I think she would actually thrive and be, I mean, because she was an immensely talented Oscar-nominated actress. So I think she would just have left a large mark on the world. And I feel like she would also have had a happier life, if that makes sense. Because I think the fact that you know, people, she wouldn't have had to be so standoffish with people. People would have gotten to know her as a person more, and now, you know, it's more empowering. Women are more empowered than they were back then, even though still a long way to go. But
I wonder if her early life had happened as it did, if she still would have had that part of her that kind of wanted to sort of hide that background, you know, like where she came from. We just assume. Yeah,
but you know what? There's a lot. I mean, if you look at Charlize Theron and her backstory, I mean, she definitely doesn't, you know, walk it around a lot, but it's there. I mean, she doesn't deny it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I think in some ways it might be better, but then frankly, when you look at it, she's literally the first Asian actress ever to be nominated for an Oscar. She didn't win. And since then, the only other, Natalie Portman. That's it.
True.
True.
I'm probably being too optimistic.
I think yeah. I might be a negative Nancy, but realistically.
No, but I mean, but okay. I hate to say it, But the fact that she is mixed race would still work in her favor today.
Oh,
And
absolutely.
It would still work in her favor, but
that is still a thing today.
how many Indian actresses do we see really big in Hollywood?
Yeah, but she was huge.
No, she
in
was.
the 40s. So if she was that
She
big,
was white.
but if she was that big back then, I think today, I think she would have still achieved, because that had
I'm
nothing.
not saying she wouldn't have achieved it. I'm just saying that I don't think that she necessarily would have still been as open with.
I don't think she would lie about being from Tasmania.
I don't think she would have either. I think that finding out that your mother was actually 13 when she had you, because she had this relationship with a grown man who took advantage of the situation and then left her.
No, that's a good point, because I guess you can't really compare Charlize to Merle today, because Charlize is a
she's
white
she's white South
yeah.
She's not mixed race. So I think
everybody should come in my bubble. It's a very happy, peaceful utopia.
I'm sorry.
Yes, she would probably. You see, even now, actresses that are mixed race, the ones that have a more versatile look to them because they don't strongly favor one race or the other, have an easier time. An easier time getting roles than actresses of color who are very obvious, like what their heritage is. So I think, yes, she still probably would have had a very easy time getting roles in Hollywood, but I don't think that it just would have been like, oh, it's so great, and look at me, and I'm proud, half British and half Indian, and it's all tra-la-la. I guess my mom and my family, and
I guess more than likely, what would happen in today's world is she would hide it all the way up until the point where she had power.
Yeah.
I don't think she would have gone to her grave being like, I'm from Tasmania.
I don't think she would have chosen Tasmania either. But
yeah. Well, and I think that, yes, she may have tried to hide a lot of it, but I think that it all would have come out much sooner, and she would have had to own it. And I think being forced to own it wouldn't have affected her career. I think it would have been fine. She would have continued to have a career. She wouldn't have had the issues with relationships that she had, because it would have been much more accepting. It wouldn't be like so hardcore that she had to like hide who her mother was so that her boyfriends didn't find out. I don't think she would have had necessarily those issues, but I still think that even today, actresses of color have a really difficult time.
Oh, I'm not saying that they don't. I just think she would have been bigger than she was, and I think
she would have, and she would have been happier in the long run because she wouldn't have had to deal with those prejudices going on at that time. Yeah. But I still think that it would have been rough in the beginning still for her.
So hopefully when
accept it herself.
Hopefully when we revisit this topic when we're all 90, the answer will be much different, right?
I would like
Friday Ketchup doesn't know what a bottle of ketchup she opened with that one. Tiffany M says, I'd hope that she would be proud of her heritage. Not like you can hide it in today's world anyway. Totes, my goats. Trinity Quest said, girl's black and has great roles because of the women who came before her. Tiffany laughed at Nicholson, not golf, dying. Tiffany also says she was sassy and gorgeous. Dawn says her looks are classic and she would be popular today. And Friday Catch Up says she thinks she'd be killing the social media game. Oh my God, she totally would.
Mm-hmm.
She would be like the Rock, the equivalent of the Rock on social media. Because, okay, I follow him because it's the Rock, but he has so many followers. I mean, the Kardashians think they're hot stuff, but man, they're no Rock. They're no Dwayne Johnson, people. Charlize, love for Charlize. Dawn says with the right publicist, she could have built a career off her past today. She would have had to have come out and her business savvy mind. She could have schooled some of the petty divas today. Oh, yes, she could have. Yes, she could have. All right. And so, oh my gosh, let's get into the movie a little bit and what we thought about it. And let us know as well if you like us delving a little bit more into the leads out of the films as well. I know sometimes we do a little bit, but this was kind of fun delving into the lead as well as the movie itself, because I think, you know, we all love the actors and actresses as well. But I will say this. I was excited about the movie being picked. And I'm going to come to jail next, just so you know, so you're ready. I was happy about the movie being picked just because of Mina and Merle, and it was a noir. But for some reason, I wasn't like super excited by like the plot synopsis for it. I loved the movie poster, but I legitimately didn't even watch it until today. That's how like I was like, I don't want to be disappointed by it. No. You know. Because again, when I do, as you guys know, like I post on our Facebook group, when the movies are selected, I post like little synopsises along with the movie posters so you guys can read about some of the movies you don't know before voting. And again, it was like just this little tiny synopsis, and I'm just like, meh. So with those feelings in mind, I started the movie being like, you know, because I wanted to see the boat wreck. I wanted to know what it was that was traumatizing her. Because okay, you guys are gonna laugh at me. For the first half of the movie, I was like, is she upset because did she have to eat her parents on the boat? Like, is this a Donner Party type of situation going on here?
I mean, that's plausible.
Right? Because I mean, you know, because we come from a world of Titanic.
Mm-hmm.
Rose was heartbroken. She was in the Titanic. She, you know, had a very successful, happy life after that. And she didn't seem to have nightmares and have to spend money in the hospital.
Her heart went on.
That was...
Her heart went on.
And on.
And she didn't hold on. And
she was secure in the fact that she let Jack freeze and drown, even though there was room.
So she could have scooted her butt over.
There was room. And it could.
She was just saving time later, so she had enough water for herself.
She had that necklace in her pocket, and she was going to have a new name and a new life, and no man was going to bring her down ever again.
She was an independent female.
All the single ladies. Tiffany's laughing at her for snorting. Thanks, JL. So yeah. So that was kind of where I was at. And then once we got into the house and started meeting some of the people, everything started to take sinister overshadowing to it. Like even when the doctor dropped her off and was like, just remember, I saw you first. I was like, okay, that's creepy. That's real creepy. Who would say that to someone? You know, what are you doing? You're marking your claim, you know, and then throughout the movies, I love shadowy suspense. I love not being kind of led places. I feel like it kind of did for a short amount of time. It wasn't a long section of time, but there was this really great section of the movie, kind of in the middle endish, where like when Pearson was talking to her from the bushes, I legitimately had that moment of being like, oh, is he in her mind? Because you've never seen him with anybody else. I'm like, whoa, that would be so cool. And of course, you know, I grew up watching some soaps, and I do remember a soap or two where the, you know, the spouse tried to make the other one think they were crazy by doing stuff like that. So I really had some fun with that. And like the oily creepiness of Cleve, and being, at first I was like, Cleve, you're an idiot. Why are you trying to make her go on this boat? And then I was like, oh my God. And then everybody wanted her to have a drink of some sort, like, have a tea. Oh, here's some water. No, take the water from my room. Oh, here's some lemonade. Let me chase you down the stairs with this lemonade you need to drink. You know what I mean? So I was like, don't drink the water. So I really had fun with that whole section of it. And then I do have to say, I was a little let down by the ending. I didn't feel like the ending lived up to that really suspenseful middle part. So I was a little bit disappointed in that, because I kind of, and maybe this is just me knowing more about Merle, wanting her to have that moment of being like, you know, I'm reclaiming myself. I mean, you get that little bit at the end where she's like, I'm okay. You know. Which I was like, girl, are you really though?
Like, now I suspect you.
Because I will tell you this, Merle Oberon is one of those people that made a huge impact on me as a child. The Scarlet Pimpernel was the first time I ever saw her, and I wanted to be her. I loved her so much in that movie. And you know, like a little thing going on there. But I just love that movie so much. And even years and years later, it's like scenes from that movie I remember. And as Heather mentioned, Wuthering Heights was, I mean, you know, it's the definitive Wuthering Heights to me, just like, you know, the BBC version of Pride and Prejudice is the Pride and Prejudice. There's only one non-furry Mr. Darcy. Am I right, people?
Right. That's right.
And speaking on the Austen world, and this is probably, I think, the last thing I have, but this to me, and when Heather said Gothic film noir, it just hit it so much on the head of why I kept saying it's kind of like a book that would have been read in Northanger Abbey, you know, where she is addicted to a Gothic horror, and then she gets into Northanger. I could go on and on about that.
That's a really, really good comparison, though. Yes, I like where that's going.
Yeah. So I surprisingly liked this film a lot more than I thought I was going to. Will I rewatch it? Probably not. I think probably a one watch of this movie is going to be great for me. So yeah. If you guys saw the movie, let us know. Tiffany says Cleve was so cringy, but quicksand. That was quicksand. I feel like as a child I was obsessed with quicksand. You know, like Jane just lurking everywhere.
I think movies did that to us.
Mm-hmm.
I was
Princess Bride, especially.
Yeah, I was always afraid of quicksand.
And now as an adult, I'm like, does it really exist? Is it really that bad?
I think I just read recently that it isn't as much of a thing as the movies would make it seem.
Yeah, it's actually much easier to get out of.
Yeah. I was literally just reading like that.
Than the movies make it out to. Like, you have to really just be like, just feel like dying today. It'll take a while.
When I was a kid, I would literally practice like, okay, if you get stuck in it, just like, don't fight it. Don't fight it.
Don't fight it. Just try to slowly reach up for, you know, a vine. Even though you don't live in the jungle, there'll be a vine.
There's not a tree for miles, but I'm gonna find something to slowly pull my.
What really, yeah, what really we needed to be worried about was big things of mud that would suck the boots right off your feet.
Right.
Oh God. Oh my God. I can't tell you how many times I've been traumatized by getting stuck in the mud.
Mine was more rattlesnakes.
Oh,
Like legitimate fears.
I would wear like really thick plastic, like thigh-high boots if I lived in rattlesnake country and be like, bring it, snakes. Of course, I'd have like massive chafing from like hard plastic I'm wearing out tonight.
I've got a wild heat rash, but no rattlesnake.
Can't bend my knees.
Well, that would be a look.
But the rattlesnakes would get me. And I am happy to say that the League of Decency has arrived. Emily is finally back with us. She's off work today. So yay, Emily. Because of the cartoons. Okay. So JL.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think? I'm sorry, you can never top Meet Me in St. Louis. So don't even try.
The kids. What?
So overall, I enjoyed the movie. I would probably watch it at least once more, only because Amazon and I weren't getting along this afternoon. So I had to find a free version on YouTube. And even on the TV, the screen was like this big in the bottom corner of my TV. And there was like random stuff going on around it so that they wouldn't get copyright flagged.
Oh, right.
They basically put the movie in a movie.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I was like, oh, really hard to see. So I would like to see it full screen. I was very, like, I knew the plot behind the story, but sorry, I'm having injection itches right now. But I was really confused. I get she was on a ship and it was torpedoed in the middle of the war, and that's definitely traumatizing. But I couldn't understand how she went from that to assuming that she was insane while she was in the hospital. Like, you need to send me to an insane asylum because I'm crazy. And I was like, what happened? Like, how did things get so, like, we started at like a 3.
I think everybody around her. I feel like everybody around her was like, oh, girl, you crazy. You know, because even the Dr. George, when he explains like her situation, is like, oh, I think I actually wrote it down. Hold on.
But I didn't understand why.
No, why? I don't either. Okay. This is my only explanation for it. It's 1944, and women, they just so weak, they can't handle trauma.
Everybody's,
you know what I mean?
Hysterical.
Yeah. Everybody's got the right first, darling.
So I was like, okay, well, if she's so like medically traumatized, and then I'm like, well, she's an adult, so why are they like releasing her to like some random family members that she's never met? Like, she's an adult. Like, this doctor dude knows who she is and is all up in her business. Like, why does she need to like go be under the care of some relatives she's never?
Well, even in the 40s, I don't think women could even have checking accounts on their own. They needed a male relative to open checking accounts for them. So that part of it made it, to me, it was still a little bit of a stretch. So I can definitely understand kind of your feelings with that.
Kept getting confused as to like, okay, so like, she went into the house already thinking that she was crazy.
Mm-hmm.
And then, like, there's these rando people there who are pretending to be her family, but actually killed them and, like, tossed them in the swamp because they wanted the property. But then she shows up. There was some backstory that didn't quite, it didn't go like this, so that I could have my aha moment. I was like, is she supposed to, were they concerned that she was going to inherit the land? If those family members were dead?
I kind of thought what was going to happen was that she would inherit the land, and then they would have her declared crazy, and that they would have to take over.
I thought they were just trying to make her crazy, and then they were going to kill her.
Well, but okay, so at the end, though, he says something. Okay, this is my issue with the film, is exactly what we're talking about. Because at the end, then Sydney says that she was worth like $300,000. And so my understanding was maybe and it sounded like he had been hired by someone. So I think maybe he was contracted to either get her declared insane or to kill her so that they could take the property and sell the property, is what I came to the conclusion at the very end when he said something about him being hired and that she was worth, like, he was getting paid $300,000. Because then he's like, well, if you kill Cleve and aunt and uncle, then you'll get more. So that was...
I just found there was some major plot holes.
Oh!
Storyline holes.
There were
giant black holes. Like,
gaping.
So I kept going through the story like, okay, so when is this going to be explained? And I thought it was done really well. You know, they were playing records of voices calling her name and trying to make her crazy. And everybody was kind of like always in her face when the doctor was like, she just needs to go out and have some fun and have some space. And they're like the exact opposite, like in her face, like always on her, like, and, you know, if they did take her out, they take her to the movies. And what do they play in the middle of a movie? They play the news. And what is the news? More things about boats being blown up during the war. So, you know, it's like they kind of, like, I got where they were going with trying to, like, traumatize her. But even at the end, when, like, 1 minute they're all like, I'm aunt and uncle, and then all of a sudden the uncle takes his glasses off, like, that the glasses are his...
I'm the uncle.
Disguise.
My uncle
disguise. I'm over this. I don't want to do this anymore. Like, this isn't what I signed up for. And I was like,
he changed his voice too when he was playing the uncle, and I was like, she's never met you.
Worst reveal ever of, like, the, you know, master plan. I was like, what? He takes his glasses off. Dink. I'm not the nerdy science uncle anymore. I'm a bad guy. It's just having, like, a difficult time with this, especially with the screen this big. And I was like,
I don't think it gets any better with a bigger screen as far as that. You probably missed a little of the shadowy ambiance, though.
Yeah. And then at the very end, she's, like, in a boat. And he's like, are you okay? Are you okay?
Yeah,
I'm okay.
I'm okay.
And then it ends. I'm like, no. That dude could have, like, he was still alive in the boat. He could have overtaken them. That's not the end.
Yeah. Well, and it's funny because we were talking in the comments a little. One thing before I get to that really quick, I do want to shout out Dark Rose. Her mom is feeling better. She's all better. No more staples, no more concussion, and her MRI came back good. So yay! Very excited. But we were also talking about, Tiffany and I, we're talking about the doctor at the hospital being creepy. And I originally thought that he set this whole thing up. I thought the aunt and uncle were still alive and in New York, and he just said, yeah, I'm going to write this letter for you, and sent it to his cohorts. And being that, you know, Sydney is paid by somebody, was it the doctor at the hospital? And that's where, and he was feeding her this whole like, oh, you're going insane with these nightmares. Oh, people don't have nightmares if they're normal. You know what I mean? It just, yeah. And was it Friday Catch Up? I think, yeah. Friday Catch Up says the bits that JL probably wants is probably on the cutting room floor. So.
I need those. And by the way, they're in Louisiana, right? So where are all the alligators in the swamp? They're like
the whole time. We got frogs.
Not one alligator? Nobody is like worried about jumping out of a boat and getting eaten by an alligator? I'm sorry, excuse me? No.
I had the same thought.
I kept going, where's the alligator?
I kept waiting on it.
But you know what's funny is I do think this was filmed on location though. Because
they escaped alligators, but the creepy guy got it from the quicksand. Is there quicksand in Louisiana? I don't think so.
Okay, I'm Googling that. But
I'm pretty sure that there's not quicksand.
Does anybody live in Louisiana? Can you confirm?
I could be wrong, but who's the last? Raise your hand if you heard about a quicksand incident in Louisiana. Raise your hand. Before this movie.
You know, the dangerous ROUS.
No, I thought it was everywhere, so.
Oh! Where is quicksand? Where is quicksand located? And this is just from the top search result. Most quicksand is found on beaches. In England, you can visit Southend-on-Sea or Macomb Bay, where the sand is like mud and you sink to your knees. Or in America, there's Lake Michigan. That's what I live next to.
What? At least you have a reasonable excuse for quicksand fear.
Okay, so my quicksand fears growing up were totes legit.
Yeah. So what you're saying is it's not in like the Egyptian desert or
like I'm looking at the Smithsonian because the title of this caught my eye. Quicksand ? Don't sink, just dance across it. And I was like, wait a minute, I could have been doing jazz hands the whole time.
Nothing to see here.
Yeah. I get the quicksand and do jazz hands.
Oh my god.
I told you guys it was gonna be a weird one tonight. And nobody raised about hearing an incident from Louisiana.
Wow.
Only in the
movies. There you go.
Only in the movies.
Only in the movies.
Fred is Sarah dancing across the quicksand, Emily says. Wait, Friday Catch Up, where are you from? I feel like you're from Australia or something. I can't remember. She had a friend lose his fiance's car in quicksand on Bribly Island here.
Oh. Was it in Tasmania?
No. Bribly Island, Louisiana.
Like offshore. Sorry. That's terrifying, though.
And most people say you will most likely not sink past your waist.
Mm-hmm.
Wait, so all Princess Buttercup had you? Oh my god, I'm gonna laugh so hard I can't read this. So I'm gonna have to hold my eyes open. My eyes closed, which is really a problem when you're driving a car. The dark web. They are never going to drive with me ever. That's okay. JL drives every time we see each other. Wait, so all Princess Buttercup had to do was jazz hands. That would have made that seem funny as heck.
Why are animators not on this?
I can see
Oh my gosh. Somebody gets the cane out.
Friday catch up is in Australia, so when we go to Australia someday, we will have to watch out for quicksand.
I'm not driving there.
But apparently, you just lose the car because the fiance he got out fine. He just lost the car. Whoopsie. Or did he? That would be a really great excuse. Like, oh, I did do my homework, though I dropped it in quicksand. Oh.
And after an hour, it sunk down.
Is that like the quicksand version of the dingo ate my baby?
Yeah.
Oh, that poor lady. I'm sorry.
I got it right the first time. No, I can't say it. Oh, here's the other thing. Because now trying to pronounce Bribey Island is when they were saying when they were saying I did the where did I Batavia. I was like, why are you guys saying it like idiots? It's Batavia. Because we have a Batavia here. So then I was like, well, clearly we're not talking about Hobart, Indiana and Batavia, Illinois in this movie. So maybe I should look up Batavia. And it turns out it's modern day Jakarta in the Dutch East Indies. I'm like, people need to.
I was like, that was one of the things that I couldn't figure out why. I mean, I'm assuming colonization, but why they were there. And so then I don't know. I was very confused by like the fact that they were there, why they were leaving, were they refugees? I was very, very confused on her backstory.
I feel like they were there, like, colonization, and then because of the war they had to leave.
That was my assumption, because she never met her aunt and uncle, so she had to have been there for 20-ish years at least. So I just invented a lot of this story in my brain as it went along, because I was like, I don't understand what's happening, so I'm just gonna make up my own set, like, parallel story to make this okay in my brain. Because I kept pausing and being like, what is happening? Why is this Cajun family in this movie?
I don't know, but those kids were cute.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was
they were adorable.
Why are they all... They're from New York, right? And they bought land there. So why all of a sudden...
The family?
The other family. The French family.
The French family.
It wasn't even so much Cajun as they were like
straight
up
I'm
French.
thinking that's the beginning of, whatever. But
I thought there
was going to be a whole thing with the daughter and being jealous of her, and like she was going to play into the story somewhere. But no, they were just there for a farado. I mean, it was precious, but it was unnecessary.
Button I laughed so hard. Well, and here's the other thing. The whole time the kids were running around hiding from the adults, I was like, oh, jails, I feel like that.
I didn't understand what that had to do with anything. I'm like, why is this even a thing?
I think again, making things up. I think it was to kind of show that Dr. George was okay. Like he was a person
at the little dance party.
Right.
Why were the kids why did we even have
because they were cute
of the children trying to run around and hide? It's not like they were stealing booze or dancing with each other. They just kept running from spot to spot hiding. I'm like, what is the point?
There is no point. It's just
the movie.
I think it's just because, I mean, that's what, I don't know. I mean, as
got
kids,
no answers.
when our parents would have not adult parties, but like parties and like we had to go up to bed kind of thing. We would listen at the top of the stairs and be like, "Why can't we be down there?" And then they'd be making like weird jokes that we just went right over our head, and that's all they were doing. That and drinking alcohol and playing poker. I mean,
Yeah.
and they're talking about the weather now and again. And it's like, God, being an adult is so boring.
Let's go.
Well, I can understand if they were like running around the party, like trying to steal somebody's drink or trying to like get something, but they were just literally like hiding from like one spot to another. And I was like, what is.
It's like their parents like put in the contract they needed X amount of minutes of time in this movie, and that's how they did it. I don't know.
There's no information about the movie, so we don't know if it was like nepotism or anything.
Yeah.
So speaking of the movie, Heather, what do you think?
I mean, I feel like I've shared a little bit, but I do agree. Like, I liked the suspense that came. I was a little worried at the beginning when it's like her face on the papers and she's like, what is something like something about the moment when your father goes overboard and your only thought is there's more water for me. And I was like, oh, she is crazy. So maybe they did that on purpose. I feel like that was the only thing that made me think, well, maybe that's how they're telling us that she's not stable. So then I was kind of waiting on, like, are we going to have like a ghost moment like you thought with Pearson?
Or the cannibalism moment.
Right. Like maybe there was something to that. But then immediately, as soon as she pulled up at the house, I was like, no, they just out to get her. Like as soon as she got out and like Snyder walks down the steps, I was like, no, this is all about him. But I did like the suspense of not knowing whether, what's his name, Norbert and Emily. I liked not knowing for sure whether they were in on it or not, except for the fact that as soon as they started offering drinks all the time, then I was like, yeah, they're definitely in on it. And also learned never to trust a man who gives you an egg and cherry, because that is disgusting.
Oh, I actually Googled that. Apparently it's like a home remedy for all that ails you.
Like for your constitution or something.
It literally looked like it was a hard-boiled egg in the sherry.
Yeah. Like, but
it's supposed to be a cracked raw egg.
It just looks like a raw egg in the sherry, which seems like a very 40s thing to do. Like that's along the same lines as 60s and Jell-O. But so I liked some of that part of it, and I actually really liked the doctor. Like at first when he said the thing about like, remember I saw you first, I thought, ooh, yeah, I don't like you. But then as it went on, I really enjoyed like that aspect of the film. But then as it got toward the end, I like started zoning out. Like after she found Pearson, and I thought it would take a like dramatic turn, and it kind of doesn't at that point. It's just like the lame little reveal. I kind of started zoning out after that because I thought, well, it's nothing like I thought it was going to be. And also, I have to say, I just watched what's the movie? It's a French film.
Amelie?
No. Maybe 50s. Oh shoot. What is it called? It's like a psychological film. It's
who was in it?
Diabolique. That's it. And I just watched that, and it is brilliant. Probably one of my favorite films of all time, and I had totally forgotten about it. And I think Ashley mentioned it on one of her videos recently, and I rewatched it, and it's such a good noir type film.
What was it called?
Le Diabolique, I think is the name of it. And I think it's 50s, but it's French. It's a foreign film, but like the twists in it, I think are brilliant. And so I was kind of hoping that this would have those same kind of twists that are really smart and clever. And this to me at every twist was a hole. And so I had a really hard time following it. So maybe not my favorite film, but I love Merle. And I thought some of the things that, not like the hysterical moments, because they always make women be hysterical and it just annoys me. But the more like some of the scenes where you can tell she's trying to figure out, like, do I drink this? Do I take this? And her scenes with Pearson, I think I love them when she's sitting in the like lounge chair and she's holding the book and she's talking to him in the bushes behind her. I love those scenes because she is understanding everything. You can see like how intelligent she really is. So at that point I was like, yeah, she's definitely on top of this. Like she knows what's going on, which makes the boat scene all the more like infuriating when she doesn't like turn it on and just drive. Like he has to lead her to this realization that she's okay. I thought, well, she was pretty clear about that. And when she was in the lounge chair telling Pearson, no, stay in the bushes. This is what's going to happen. Like she was in control of her faculties then.
Yeah.
Like, so I had some problems with some of that. I loved her shoes.
I was watching her shoes too the whole time.
They were so impractical.
Oh, they were
impractical. But absolutely adorable, and I want them.
Like, and it was so funny because when she took the money and like snuck out the house and was gonna like walk, because I remember thinking like, boy, when they were driving that car like through the swamp, I was like, my headlights on my car are real good, but when I get in areas where there's no street lights, it's really hard to see.
Dark. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And their headlights were not as good as our headlights. And I'm like, it's got to be hard to drive. And now you got this woman coming out of the house with these fabulous shoes on, and you're going to walk through the swamp in those things?
No, impractical. Mm-hmm. And then the other thing that bothered me, but it was also the moment when I knew and Emily was in on it, was when she went into her bedroom and she's like rolling her hair. She rolled it like ridiculously. I was like, nah. I was so annoyed by she rolled her hair.
Oh, I know. Yeah. Who takes chunks and just rolls it? And
up like she rolled it up and there was hair like sticking out the ends and she was like just putting it in there. I thought, no, she the crazy one here.
Y'all better just watch out when you roll your hair around Heather.
I'm very judgy about it, apparently.
All right. So Tiffany said, oh God, watching that, I knew that would get mentioned. Friday Ketchup says she thinks the kids were probably employees, kids that were promised a part in the movie.
That's all I can think of.
All right, so we are over time, but it would not be a Classy Chicks if we did not do the dreaded retesting of this movie. Because here's the thing. I actually want them to remake this movie. I think it could be a very good movie. Not to say that there aren't movies that are similar to this out there, but I feel like it could be done really, really well. So it would be really fun to see it remade. So I'll start things off so nobody steals my people. Because I'm a host. So here's the thing. I feel like it's a weird movie because it's not like one of those where it's so iconic that you couldn't just, randomly slap people into it, because I think there are people that could definitely make this movie much worse, because I feel like the actors in it made the parts that we enjoy enjoyable. So I think without Merle and without Dr. George, hell, without even Sydney, probably, I don't know that this movie would be streamable today if it weren't for them. But I was kind of hesitant to like recast it with like anybody from that era, because I don't really, I don't know. I think it would just be weird with like Betty Davis or somebody, like, why do that, right? So then I thought, okay, I'm going to go modern. And then I also thought like, well, I love the fact that Merle is an Indian woman. So I thought, well, why don't we just embrace that whole idea? And I wanted to cast, because I loved her. Okay, I'm going to put it out there. I might get some hate for this. I really dislike Keira Knightley. Don't know why. There's just something about her that I don't like. Has not liked her since, Pirates and Bend It Like Beckham, which is why I never, and I love Bend It Like Beckham, and I never ever understood why Keira was the person that movie was really about. When to me it was, and I'm going to say it wrong, but Parminder, the girl who played Jess.
Mm-hmm.
She was gorgeous. She's an amazing actress. So I personally, because I like her so much, would just want to see her in more stuff. So I would stick her in this movie. And hell, we could even have it filmed down in Australia because they have quicksand, apparently, or Lake Michigan. Which I think ours is more like the weird beachy stuff that suck in waist deep, maybe. I don't know, but I'm going to be researching this later. And does anybody remember the show Heroes?
Vaguely.
There was this guy. Okay, there was this guy by the name of Jay on that. He was incredibly handsome. Okay, now I can't find it. Heroes TV show. I should write these things down. Sendell Ramurthy. I'm just going to show a picture of him because he is so handsome. Oh my God, he's so handsome. And he can be Dr. George.
Oh, yeah.
He is. Oh, hi. I only like women. Only women named Jennifer, so I don't want to star with this other woman. Can you just have, well, I don't know, a blue-haired Jennifer play her part? That'd be great. Thanks. So Dark Rose says so they can film it in the fire swamp. Heather.
Okay. So I think that for the Doctor, someone like Chris Evans.
Oh yeah.
That's who I'm thinking. And then for Merle's part, is it Leslie?
Yeah.
I just think of her as Merle. I think Constance Wu. I think she's beautiful and kind of has the same expressions sometimes. She's got that, like, she can be like fun and lighthearted, but she also has this like elegance about her that reminds me a little bit of Merle's like demeanor. Like, it's just like this automatic, like very natural elegance. So I think she would be my pick for Leslie. For I don't know who I'd do for Sydney, but I think for the aunt and uncle, maybe somebody like Edward Norton.
Oh my God, that would be good. Yeah.
But then I don't know who would play. I can't figure out somebody for aunt.
You know who? You know who plays really, really creepy? Is Leonardo DiCaprio.
Ooh.
And because if you remember him in Django Unchained,
he would be a good Sydney.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, and even like Gatsby, he was super like bizarro in that. Like, I don't know. Yeah, I think he would be a great Sydney. Anyhow.
And Tiffany wants to know who we would cast as Cleve, because she had a love-hate relationship with him.
Oh, I thought of somebody, and oh shoot, because he was.
Okay, this is actually a real life person. But a guy by the name of Benjamin Peitzel. He used to be the handyman for H.H. Holmes, and he was an alcoholic. I'm going to find a picture of him because okay. Benjamin Peitzel. Because he even looks like, I know, why does he even kind of looks like Cleve. Oh, come on. I don't mean Benjamin Petrie. Peitzel. I don't mean Benjamin Pretzel either. Oh my God.
Oh, I cannot.
Okay, here he is. Doesn't he kind of look like me? Yeah.
Yeah.
That was, and this was in his handsome days before the alcohol got to him.
Oh, that happens.
JL, what about you? What about you?
For some reason, I'm kind of stuck on Zoe Saldana.
I have it written down too.
And then I was thinking, I just forgot his name. Poop.
Describe him and I can Google him for you.
He's in the new A Star Is Born.
Oh, Bradley Cooper?
Bradley Cooper is the doctor, because I feel like he's kind of that arrogant but kind of trustworthy at the same time kind of a thing. The aunt and uncle, I can't.
I didn't cast the aunt and uncle. Heather just went for extra credit.
Yeah.
I couldn't think of aunt.
I had somebody for Sydney in my head, and it just left.
I'm trying to think who is
the little guy from Will and Grace that plays
Jack?
No. The Karen's nemesis guy.
Oh my God, what is his name?
You know what I'm talking about?
Yes, I do. He's got the voice. What is his name? Oh, Google, don't fail me. Will and
what is his name?
Beverly Leslie.
That guy.
Yes. Yes. Does anybody have any ideas for Emily's character? I mean, not our Emily. Well, Emily could play. Emily's too pretty to play an aunt. Well, not in general, but that specific aunt. I'm trying to think. Who's some really good character actors?
I mean, I feel like Uma Thurman or somebody like that would be too serious.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe I feel like, well, with my casting, you want somebody like Lucy Liu or because if you're supposed to be her aunt.
And what's his name?
Lucy Liu could do creepy though.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Hey, Betsy. Now I'm thinking who Indian wise could be an aunt, and I think she's Indian, but she played Samantha's girlfriend in Sex and the City, and she's also in The Expanse. She's just gorgeous and exotic, and she has so much range. What is her name? Oh good God, I can't say her name. She's Iranian. Sorry, she's not Indian. Shareh Ashdashlu. This is what she looks like now.
Oh yeah.
Oh, okay, I know who she is.
Yeah, she's in a ton of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
She's gorgeous. She's brilliant, and she plays those that at least in The Expanse she is right now, a woman with a agenda really well. All right, so Tiffany was saying Goldie Hawn. She could be fun. All right, so we are way over time. It is 10:30, but
I'm losing battery fast here.
Yeah. So we're going to go ahead and wrap up. Thank you guys so much for coming out. As always, you are the ones that make this so much fun. And for some reason, I think you guys are the ones that always get us silly and off the rails, which isn't that why we're all here, honestly.
It's a bonus.
So, it's a bonus. So let us know going forward if you want us to do, and we'll try to tighten it up a little bit too so they don't run over. But if you want us to do a little bit of backstory on some of the actors and actresses, because I found that fascinating and so much fun. And like I said, next month is going to be Carmen Jones starring the absolutely fabulous Dorothy Dandridge. So come join us next week. Or next week. I don't know if it is going to be before or after Viva that we're doing it. And also, if you are planning on being at Viva, yay, and stay tuned to social media. JL and I, unfortunately, will be missing our third slice of the pie this year, but her and I will be there representing Flat Fancy at meetup Friday night at the Piano Bar. Time to be determined after JL and I look at the schedule to determine what bands are playing, and because you know, we don't want you guys to have to divide your time. So if you're going to miss us between uploads, be sure to follow us on all the social medias. Myself as a Vintage Vanity, Heather as How to Be Fancy, and JL as Modern Retro Gal. Thank you guys so much for coming out, and we love you guys so much. Bye.
Bye. Don't fall in any quicksand.
Jazz handing. Oh, John Waters is at the burlesque show, but John Waters could play Cleve too.
Oh,
yeah.
Oh my God, that's amazing. Okay. I know you didn't mean it that way, but oh, that's a good one. Okay. Night, guys. Bye.
Bye.